Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. Warm welcome to a Lyceum evening. Going to have just bring up a subject that I did a little post about earlier on philosophy, and that really sort of engendered quite a few responses on that. Really interesting responses, as does happen on Facebook World. Some comments just went slightly off topic, but never mind. That's what happens. But it's just talking about, um, the importance of our philosophy in our services. I've just got the page up here where the comments were all coming in, and what sparked it was there's been talk about changing formats of services, where people are struggling to get people in through the doors. And one of the things put forward was dropping the philosophy. I found that really a eek moment, quite frankly. I really did find that an eek moment. You know, the philosophy is the backbone of spiritualism, in my opinion. Yes, we have the evidential messages. Yes, we have the evidential mediumship. Yes, that is very important and beautiful and wonderful. But it's part of the bigger picture. You know, for many, many, many years now, the evidential mediumship has become a bit of the star turn. And yeah, as I said, it's definitely got its place. I had the most beautiful message the other night from a gentleman, which was really good, very well timed. And yeah, I just went away going, thank you so much. But the philosophical side of what we do, you know, I used to describe mediumship as the sprinkles on the cake. You know, the real depth of flavour, the real sustenance is the cake itself. And the mediumship is a part, an attractant. What people call it, the shop window of spiritualism. Now, I get that. I do get that. Thinking and train of thought. But you know what? Spiritualism has got so much to offer. Hello, lovely Matt. Really has. And, you know, we should always be on this eternal quest for improvement, for more understanding, for self-development. Now, this has been a thing of late I've been looking at with the development of the evidential medium, and bringing in more that self-awareness and understanding of the works of the evidential medium. Yeah, it's great to be taught, or, you know, we can teach the mechanics of it. We can teach how to construct a message. We can teach attunement to the other world. And we can teach all these sort of things. But what about the development of the medium? What about that spiritual? This should be, you know, a great to sit in a church or a centre or online or in a private sit-in, whatever the venue, doesn't matter. When you get that message and you know that with the quantity and the quality of the evidence that's contained within, that person who we thought was gone from our life forever, we'd never hear from them again, is existing on somehow, some way, some form. So yeah, it's wonderful to be able to be a part of that process, to raise your mediumship up, raise up your connection with the other world, to fully submerge yourself in the other world, and bring through that cinching proof. Hello, Jen. Of the survival of the soul, the spirit, whatever. Lots of terminology. We have lots of terminology in our movement, and I sometimes think there's a bit too much. I got confused with certain things. I was not quite sure what people were talking about, but never mind. But in and through that act of developing that connection with the other world, to be able to relay these messages, relay these communications, be the voice of the voiceless, that should have a real profound effect upon the medium. And in many cases, not all, hello Mariam, not all, but many cases, the soul development route has been on how to make a link, how to construct a message, how to develop that message, how to deliver that message. Everything there, but it's a bit mechanical, and you can hear it sometimes. You know, you sit and listen sometimes to any demonstrator with your eyes shut. You pick up an awful lot more. And you can sometimes hear this disconnectedness from the other world. You know, the example is, oh, hang on. All right, they're saying this. And now they're saying that. You know, this should be a blending of the medium and that spirit, and aided and abetted by our helpers and our guides, to blend together so that, you know, the thoughts, the words, the evidence, everything just flows unbroken. We haven't got this disconnectedness, and I do hear that quite a lot. And it's a shame because, as I say, a lot of people are just being taught the mechanics. We're not bringing in the philosophy because, according to some, people don't want to hear that. I love that statement. I love it when people put this blanket statement out that applies to everybody. There we go. But something I'm bringing in a lot to the teaching here with the development circles that we're running now, and emphasizing, you know, when you start to work with your philosophy side, when you start to look for that message for all, when you start to look for that intelligence from the spirit world and blend with those who work with you for the philosophical side and enhancing the voice of your own soul, this is going to have a positive effect upon your evidential mediumship. How can it not? How can it not? You know, when you immerse yourself, when you get into a philosophy, the address, and you lose yourself in that. I mean, to me, that's a state that I want to be in when I'm working with my evidential mediumship. That, you know, I'm no longer aware of being stood up there. I'm no longer aware of addressing a person. I'm at one with the other world, and the other world is at one with me. So, and do you know what? One of the, to me, and yeah, join in the chat if you don't think it's right. Great. If you got other views, great, brilliant. That's what it's all about. But when we can really immerse ourselves with the philosophy, and I mean, it's also from the point of view of a developing medium. And I'm sure there's some very good teachers out there watching tonight, so thank you for joining. And I'm sure you've come up against this, where the sitter, be it in a circle, development group, whatever, places this enormous burden on themselves to be right. It's all got to be correct. And if I get a no, it's like, oh no, run. Yeah. But in the philosophy side, or as I've started calling it, evidential speaking, because it does seem like the word philosophy is a bit frightening to people. You know, you say, what about your philosophy? And, you know, they've got in their mind visions of great big tomes of work going back to Grecian times and beyond, and you should have memorized it all. But if we start addressing it as evidential talking, you know, you can immerse yourself more and more into greater depths each time you work with it. You can make that connection just flow and just be as that one. And you haven't got the pressure of making factual statements that have to be correct as you would do in your evidential mediumship. And it's gaining ground, I'm pleased to say. Excuse me. Yeah, that does seem to be gaining ground, but it's just, you know, we're going through this hideous, awful time. Let's be honest. You know, those of you who advocate, as I do, that we chose to be here at this time, is that theory is getting really stretched. But we're here, and we're doing it. So get on with it. Shut up and stop moaning. But yeah, we're just going through this awful, awful, awful time. And we're being faced, you know, with conflict everywhere. Everywhere we go, every time we turn on the TV, watch the news, go into our social media, go down the shop, you know, just everywhere you look, there's this conflict and turmoil. Well, we know and we understand. Hello, Elspeth. Have a lovely night. We know and we understand that the spirit will come to us because they love us. It's as simple as that. You know, there's no ulterior motive. There's no personal self-gain. It's just there to say, yeah, we're here. We love you. What do you want? How can we help you? How can we help you help yourself? I think is probably more the pertinent message. You know, we do have a tendency as human beings to look for a savior figure or somebody to blame. That seems to be a very common denominator. We're so quick. Hello, lovely Ashley and Pauline. We're very quick to give away our power. We're very quick to invest all our power into objects, into other persons, into practices, and so often, you know, it's just, to me, I'll be perfectly frank, it's a bit of a cop-out. It really is a bit of a cop-out. We had a bit of a discussion here the other day about a healing modality, and I just could not go along with what was being said because all the emphasis was being placed in objects, and that's where it all comes from. And I'm just like, what about them? What about the spirit world? What do they think of all this? And it's just very, very, very trying times. But times like this, to me, is where we need this good level and depth of philosophy to make us think slightly differently, make us look at ourselves, how we are, how we treat. Again, bringing it back to self. How do we treat others? How do we treat ourselves? How do we react or do we respond to things around us? And every time you hear a very well constructed and very well rounded and delivered piece of philosophy, there will be just that subtle change in you. It may not be anything drastic. It's probably not going to be an epiphany moment, but there will be that subtle change. And everything that happens after that, which the response is built in part of what you've heard through the philosophical address, I mean, that's staying with you forever. The messages are beautiful. The one I had the other night, even now, I think we're 2-3 days later. So I can't even think when it was. And I remember the pertinent and the salient points, and I can't remember the whole message verbatim, but I do remember the cleverness of the other world in the way things were put, which was, the philosophical part of my message, which was absolutely beautiful. And really well delivered. Everybody else sat there going, "Oh, that's nice," and I'm sat there going, "Yeah, actually, yeah, I agree with you. It is." You see, it sticks with us, and this is the thing that does tend to get missed. It really does stick. It really has that power to make you adapt, make you adopt different principles, make you look at the world just through that slightly different lens. Just look at the world just slightly not as you did before you heard that address. And just to say, it sticks with you. It really, really does. So it is such a shame that we have become a little bit too focused on evidential mediumship and a little less responsive with healing, with philosophy, or inspired speaking, however your terminology suits. Because that's the real depth of it. I look at our pioneers. I understand the part they had in our movement. I do know some things about some of them. I don't have the complete compendium. But the greatest thing that I see with a lot of the pioneers was not the fact that they could construct incredible evidence. The wonderful Gordon Higginson, and saw him in a demonstration, and he gave the name of the road, and you walk past 3 houses, and you walk up 5 stairs to the green door. I mean, wow. Wonderful. But the bigger and more impactful and more insightful work of the other world was through the philosophy, was through this understanding that we don't die. We can't die for the life of us. That we are all connected. That we are here, with purpose, with value, with things to achieve. We're not here to be browbeaten by religions and orthodoxy, but we're here to celebrate life and do the best that we can. And as I say, when we delve into the pioneers, there were so many of them who were great figures of the time, and that philosophy touched them and made them open their eyes a little bit more to the world around. There was one gentleman who was an MP, and he put through a bill about child labour because it was pretty horrific, the child labour laws, and he put in quite a few reforms. Very ardent spiritualist. So again, you can just track that evolution there. This chap sat there, and another one went into spiritualism to prove it was a load of hokum. And turned out to be an extremely adept trance medium. There you go. Maybe we've been approaching it wrong. Maybe we should go into these workshops saying, I don't want to be a medium. Anyway, sorry, I'll get back on track. But with this gentleman, he went from being a skeptic to standing in Parliament inspired by the world of spirit. and emboldened by the world of spirit to be able to stand there in front of his peers and make an impassioned plea on behalf of others to improve their lives. You know, that is awesome. I'm sure that gentleman had many evidential messages, and I'm sure with the quality and the tone of the mediumship at that time, they were absolutely, chock-a-block full of evidence. But they'd all paled into insignificance against that one calling, that one clarion call to improve other people's lives by using what we know, what we are, how we are, but to bring benefit to others. That's just one teeny tiny example of the power of philosophy. And it's just bringing that back out to people. But we need to, it's a bit like being in an overgrown garden at the moment with things. It's sort of like we're having to hack our way with a machete through bindweed and things where things are just stagnated. As I say, the emphasis on the evidential mediumship, there's a weekend coming up with lots of things happening, and everything is built around the evidential message. There's nothing about healing or philosophy. I was quite surprised. But yeah, why, you've got some wonderful people out there, a lot of very well-respected people out there. What's your thought? Why has this demise come in effect? Is it through the training? Is it through the lack of propagation about what it's about? Is it through, and sadly I've come across this many a time, where you're told as a working medium, only 10 minutes for the address because they only want the messages. Well, I always challenge that statement. It's the worst thing in the world anybody can say to me, because number one, you will then have 20 minutes of address. I don't get out much anymore. And number two, I'll ask that question, who are they? Who are these they that you're quick to quote that don't want the philosophy? Have you actually spoken? And quite often what we see in many a church and centre is there is a very vocal minority who will share their, and this is not being nasty or rude, but they will share their uneducated and unenlightened thoughts about the way a service should go according to what they want. And they seem to get listened to. And that's probably 2 out of 20 people. There's another 18 people in there, don't say a word. Well, either they don't want to say anything, or they don't want to be heard, or they're quite happy with the way it goes and open to things. Interesting. So give us your thoughts on that one. But yeah, the power of philosophy. Alongside, we have all these really potent tools at our disposal. The evidential mediumship, we can deliver that cinching proof. We can't make people believe. That's not our job. Not to make people believe. Because I always think if you make someone do or act or believe in something, there's always going to be a level of resistance there. We want people to accept that is how things are, because that means they've come to their own informed conclusion. That means they've sat there, they've had messages, they've had communications, they've had that continuity of connection, and they made their own informed choice of, something is going on here and I need to know more. Lovely Matt. Good evening, Matt. He's saying, I love the philosophy from Spirit. I wonder if, especially for younger generation, the term is too heavy. Perhaps changing to inspiration would be both more inviting and relatable to more people. Yeah, I am very much of that ilk as well, Matt. I've got a couple of mediums at the moment is on their development path. My job is just to take them out, getting used to platform a bit, introduction to other churches. And with all of them, I'm not being detrimental, all of them, the philosophy side, we need to do some really good work with. But you say the F word, philosophy, and you can see the terror going in. Or, and unfortunately, you get this time, when you run a course, a circle, I run my circles in courses. So it's 10-week course. So everybody knows what we're going to be doing week in, week in, week in. And the weeks that we say philosophy, you get some people just, I can't be bothered with that. Oh, I don't want to do that. Now, the mechanics of why do we have that? That's what interests me. And I agree wholeheartedly there. The inspirational side, the inspirational address or the inspirational talk or whatever. Just, taking that little bit of fear factor away. I mean, it has got to help. It has got to help. It's not detrimental. It has got to help. But also finding out what the fear is with the students. As I say, the enter into evidential mediumship and just put this enormous pressure on themselves to get everything right. Name, age, sex, religion, method of passing. They feel this huge pressure to deliver all of that 100% correctly. And when we misread or misunderstand what's been said, you can see it sometimes as a real hammer blow. But it's getting over to people. You know what? With the inspirational side, you haven't got that pressure. The talk will unfold. You will immerse yourself deeper. You will have positive benefit to your evidential mediumship because it's another way of surrendering to the other world. It's very interesting. It is very interesting. And it is, it's a bit concerning because there's people of different generations. Lovely Ashley. Why am I talking about Ashley? Sorry, my eye got taken by another comment on there. Lovely Ashley, when I played that very, very small part of her pathway and taken her out, I used to love hearing her philosophy because it was another generation talk. And that rebounded also in the evidential communications because we're talking about Twitter and Facebook and things like that, which, all right, I spend a lot of time on them, but it's not my go-to. If somebody says top 10 thing in your life, social media is not going to be anywhere in it. Say to somebody who's 25, what's the top 10 things in your life? Well, probably all the social media factors will be in there. So, we're missing this great opportunity for other generations to give their view, their opinion, their thoughts that they are building between their own thoughts and that of the other world. I used to love it when I first started working and I would do the addresses. Every now and then I would drop out of the power and then suddenly I'd be aware that everybody was looking at me and the first thing in my mind was, what have I just said? Oh my God, what have I just said? But that just enhancing me that, it's by letting go, it's by blending in there and losing that fear, and again, I think this comes back to something that we see a lot with people about giving their power away. Because it's so much easier to give your power away, isn't it, to things or people or situation. But really that power, just go and look in the mirror, love. There it is in all its glory. There is everything you need looking back at you in that mirror. Come on, wake up, grab it, grasp it. Understand that you are unique and you are a miracle, physically, emotionally, spiritually, divinely. You are cherished and loved beyond measure. So why do we doubt? Why do we place, oh, well, if I follow them, and, there's probably that unconscious thought, well, if I follow them and do everything they say, I'm going to be a wonderful medium. You might get guidance or tips or thoughts, but no, you're a wonderful medium because you're a wonderful medium. Other people have come into their life and brought in thoughts, and sometimes we don't go along with it. I've had people go to circles and then come away saying, oh, it was awful. Why would Spirit do that to me? Well, do you know what, love? Spirit didn't do it to you. You did it. You made a conscious effort. You went there and you put yourself out for a lesson. Unfortunately, the lesson wasn't the one you wanted, but it was a lesson nonetheless. So embrace that. So, yes, Matt. Yeah, I really do think that is one of the avenues that we can use to inspire this new generation. God, there's people out there looking at things in ways that we can't imagine or understand or perceive. And we're not hearing them. We're not hearing them or their team on the other side. We want to know where the world's going to go. Ask the youth. It's their world. Come on. We're 3/4 of the way through it. What do you want? It's your world. What do you want to build? Anyway, I can go on for ages. Lovely Amanda Jane Herod. Been asking to go to philosophy workshops for years, and the teachers always say they can't fill a workshop, so no point running them. Yeah, that was brought up in the comments on my post by a couple of very well-respected tutors. And you know what? I think sometimes we give in too easily. That's those of us running courses, churches, centres, circles, whatever. I think sometimes we accept defeat too readily. Oh, yeah, no, I tried that. Only had 2 people interested. Right, yeah, I'm not doing that again. Well, how about, okay, we tried it that way. Could do better. So why don't we rebrand, repackage, just as we were talking about, instead of a workshop on philosophy, how about a workshop on inspired speaking? You know what? At the end of the day, it's going to be exactly the same thing. But I'm sure most people out there would be much more drawn to an inspired speaking or inspired writing situation than if you roll out the big guns and go, okay, let's get philosophical. Philosophical. Oh, I can't. I've got a song now in my head. Anyway, but yeah, I agree, Amanda. It is a shame. We try things, and then sometimes, we've got to remember also a lot of the times with our churches, centres, educational sites, whatever, there is always going to be a little bit of a fear factor there because I'm not quite sure what I'm doing and a bit nervous about doing this and try that, and when something doesn't quite go the way we wanted from its inception, it is the easier choice to say, no, we tried that, didn't work. Walk away and just leave it. But as I say, we've got ample opportunity there. The world is constantly changing. I had a conversation before 2020 with a lady here who's got children of like 12, 14, and 19. And I said, it's really weird. I said, going back to my generation, we saw generational changes. Look at the 60s and all that happened there, and the 70s and the 80s. Each generation owned and maintained their generational shift. But I said, I'm seeing now that these generational shifts are happening intergenerationally. And she went, yeah, she said, my eldest, miles different from my youngest in their outlook. And I just thought, that's really interesting. So that is going on. And again, since 2020, it's going on more and more. Different thoughts, different philosophies, different lines of thinking coming in. Absolutely fine, can be very confusing. But yeah, things are changing. So, all right, if we can't fill a course on philosophy, do you know what? I bet you a fiver, I bet you a bluey, that if you ran a course on inspirational writing, you would be in double figures for it, or inspirational speaking, because it's more of today's language. And the world has changed yet again. Who is it? Adam Berry commented. Now, I'm not familiar with these, but he's talking about TED Talks, where there was something like 400 people there just to listen to what was being said. How amazing is that? I'm sure TED Talks, I'm quite happy. I will look it up and find out what this TED Talks is all about. But if that was marketed in philosophy with Richard, you probably only get about 5 in there. Because it sounds dry, it sounds desiccated, doesn't it? It's like the terminology we use, the divine service. I'm always, whenever I do the advertising for that, I always include what that contains, because just that word. You want to go to a divine service? No thanks, that doesn't sound fun. You want to go and see a medium working? Oh yeah, that'd be good. Oh yeah, with the whole service, and they have a talk and everything. Oh, well, that sounds interesting. Do you know, it's all about marketing, isn't it? It's all about how we market these things. But it's also all about how willing we are to encourage it. If we create that vibrancy around something, people pick up on that. They do. The lovely Jen. I keep sending Jen funnies, and most of them got otters in them. In our area, last time I was at a local church, which was years ago, people wanted a free message and seemed to switch off for the talk. Yeah, mediums were told the messages was more important, which I thought was sad. Yeah. I don't know how long you've been in the room, Jen, but you do sort of like mirror something I was saying right at the very beginning there, that the message has become the star. And really sadly, do you know what? Not only has the message become the star of the show, it's also lost in translation a lot of the time. Because we're not explaining the miracle that is occurring. I don't want to harp on about this too much, but as I say, the message I had the other night, totally out of the blue, totally unexpected, but was just absolutely wonderful. Not only in the content, not only in the construct, but also just in that, and we all need reassurance. There's not a man jack of us that doesn't like that little bit of reassurance out of the blue. That was my dad talking to me through somebody else. And I could feel the presence. And even the person delivering it afterwards went, do you know what? I just feel this man right here. It was absolutely beautiful. But with the lack of understanding that we are not disseminating, with the lack of education, of people who come into our churches, we're not going to capture everybody. I get that. I do know that. I run a church. I know the highs, the lows, the median lines, and all those things. So, yeah, we're not going to capture everybody, but we're not going to capture anybody if we don't try. Just little things of when you introduce each segment of the service, what it's about. Here's our inspirational talk. Now, this is another facet of the medium's mediumship. This is the thoughts and the collusion of a team of spirits to bring you thought-provoking ideas or uplifting and comfort. When we start on our evidently, not, oh, and here's the bit we've all been waiting for. I had that once. I was mortified. That's a good word, isn't it? I like that word, mortified. I was mortified. Here's the bit that we've all been waiting for. And I'm like, oh, what? Have we got a mail strip? A fab? Apparently not. So, yeah, it's just bringing in every opportunity we can and drip feeding those thoughts, those ideas to people. When we used to have, we've got a beautiful library here, and I'm so pleased. It really is well used. It really is. Which is just great because it just shows, people are engaging on different levels. But even if you haven't got a library, you could bring out a list, on your newsletters and go recommended YouTube viewing for the month. Because there's so many greats out there. Just to get people more engaged on that other side of the message of the message. Hello, birdie. Sorry, I've got baby birds all around the place and got baby magpies, and they're very inquisitive. But yeah, getting back to the message of the message. And then maybe, the philosophical addresses or the inspired talks would start to gain a little bit more credence and a little more understanding. Hello, this is lovely Colin trying to hide behind a pseudonym. Just saying, philosophy is the bedrock of any group, any belief system, but the sad reflection on too much ego and the need for money is blinding a lot of committees, has turned a lot of churches into sideshows, and there are larger congregations at some pub performances. Yep, I hear you. I do hear you. I know churches, centres, including Paul, we're not exempt. We're not sat on this lovely financial cloud. We are exactly the same as all the other churches and centres, where we have to work hard to bring in the income. I'll give you a little indication, very useful tool for anybody who's running their own church or centre in their own premises. If you add up all your utility bills for the year, so your gas, your electric and your water, and then divide it amongst the number of regular opening times, you start to get a better idea of how much you need in the plate each time you open the door. It just gives you a bit of guidance. And we went from £22 to 47. I get it. Times are damned hard and we need the income coming in. We do need that. I totally get that. So where we have the more high profile events, the money earners, come on, running a church or a centre or school or whatever is a business as well. People say, oh, it's a gift, you should give it away. Yeah, okay. I'm looking for a roofer at the moment. None of them are giving it away. Yeah, I do get that, we need these events to bring in the money to create that financial stability for us going forward. However, if we are doing that with these events, do we, like a lot of places, just stop there and go, oh, it's all right, we've got 4 dens on this month, that's it, we're fine. The money's coming in, we're sorted, no bailiffs this month, happy days. So, where's the ability there to include other events? Even going on to the online things like we do here, like tonight. Just sitting here and talking. Yeah. So, Colin, totally get that. Totally understand it. But if we are bringing the money in to maintain that financial stability, then surely that is also giving us the ability to further promote the work of spiritualism. We're not saying take your night of mediumship off and do a talk instead. Just do a talk on another night. Not a bad idea. I don't know. And Colin again. Oh, happy anniversary, by the way. The philosophy prompts personal responsibility, which is the scariest part. Life for most humans, but being the best part of our existence and showing our future is in our own hands. Yeah, and again, brings it back, where is the power? Power is that person in the mirror. Nothing else. Sorry, folks. I'm a spiritualist because everything I do in spiritualism has an evidential trail. There is evidence in it on some level or another. You can see, and it's not making things fit. It's not being fanciful. That evidence is there. If I choose to accept or deny it, that is my choice. But it's irrefutable that the evidence has been presented. Where we get some other thoughts, ideas, philosophies, and followings come in, I don't see a lot of evidence, and again, it's sort of like some of these things, you just got to believe me and don't question me. Well, in spiritualism, my team love questions. I hate their answers, but they love the questions. They love that conversation. I can sit there sometimes and just have this whole conversation just unfold and go, that was really good. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I get that. So, yeah, lots going on. So, Keith, churches call philosophy the sermon. My father-in-law would bring in subjects which were in the news. He would apply Christ's message to current affairs, which the congregation could identify with. Yeah, really good. Really good. I went to the lovely Inverness, and there's a cathedral there. Beautiful, beautiful building. And walking past there was a really nice guy on the door. And he just called out, said hello, had a little chat, and he said, we've got a service in 5 minutes. You're more than welcome to attend. And I thought, yeah, that'd be good. I can't remember the religious order that the cathedral belonged to. But the lady pastor got up there, and do you know what? She gave one of the most incredible addresses that I've heard for a long time. I was just sat there, and I just sent me thoughts upstairs and went, thank you for putting me here at this time. Because I could have turned around and gone, yeah, no, you're right, man, I'm going to grab a coffee. But no, I just felt that prompt, and it was absolutely... and this is the power of the other world. No matter what we dress it up in, no matter what garb we wear, if we stood up there in a dog collar or a tracksuit or whatever, there is always that unending flow of inspiration from the other world. People such as your father-in-law there, when he's delivering a sermon or address, do you not think that's inspired? Do you not think most of those words come from an external source? Do you not think maybe even just the theme of the sermon is not inspired because somebody in that congregation will benefit by it? The spirit world can see so much more than we can, know us better than we know ourselves. And none of these things happen by accident or by chance or randomness. There's always reasons and understandings. So, Colin, you've lost your incognito. The philosophy of personal responsibility scares a lot of our society today, and the thought of not having someone or something to blame fills them with dread. Yeah, really true. Really, really true. I'm not quite sure if it fills them with, I want to expand on that. Fills them with dread because of the lack of confidence in themselves. So, how can we build that confidence in people? Because this is very interesting, very pertinent towards the circles and things. I've got all age groups in my circle, and each and every one of them can bring in something from their generational eye to be celebrated, to be listened to be taken in and looked at. But how do we inspire? How do we remove this want of, oh, well, if I follow him, or it's his fault, he made me do it. How do we start to work with that? How do we work our way around that? How do we get that message over? When we've got people sat in circle developing mediumship, it should be actually a lot easier. You're just talking to the voice. You are the voice of the voiceless. You're talking to somebody who's dead, who is not here physically, but you are getting that confirmation that what you're talking is being understood and is correct. So what are you frightened of? Seriously. Jen, I totally misread that. I love the funnies. Keep sending. I thought you said I love the funerals. I went, well, okay, each to their own. Yeah, I will. Yeah, I love the philosophy, but I think the name puts people off. It needs to be something a bit less like school. People have been put off by church sermons, and I think they feel the same about philosophy without actually giving it a go. Yeah, really true. Again, churches, centres, schools of thought, children I see it time and time again, children are turned away. Well, you're not turning the children away, you're turning the parents away. It's not the child that wants to come to church, it's the parents that want to come to church, but they got a child. So when we focus on saying, oh no, children can't come in, we're actually saying to the parents, we don't want you. Sorry, it really is as simple as that. And also, do you know what? That sticks with kiddies in one way or another. That sticks with kiddies. If they come in and have a positive experience, always say here, bring children in. If they get, sit towards the back, we've got tables, chairs, colouring books and things like that. If they start getting a bit fractious, just pop them outside. Leave them there. No. Just pop outside with them. And that's only happened a couple of times. The rest of the time, the kids have been there good as gold. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's giving people that positive experience from the word go. And, yeah, I think definitely the common thread coming up here is the wording that we use. And when we talk about philosophy, this is the word that is quite a big stumbling block to a lot of people. So we need to look at that. Thank you, Jane. Colin. The fact that more people will go to a pub than a church or watch return, even the talent one, saddens me. Do you know what, Cole? I did agree with you a few years back. I struggled seeing how does this work? What is the other world's view on this? That's a really good question to ask yourself at times when you see things that you have a doubt over or a concern. Just ask yourself, what does the other world think of this? Because we are so quick. We get up on a platform and we're begging them, please be there. Yet we discount them from conversations outside of working. But it's so yeah, I get it. There is more of that element that we are losing the miracle of the message. However, we have a couple of demonstrators who work at Poole, and I've got the greatest of respect for them that they can go out and work in these environments and continue to keep delivering that evidence in I'm searching for a word, dignified way. Because hopefully, you know what, if you go out and you do a theatre, there's one chap, I'm really interested, I must go and see him. He's on tour at the moment, and he's filling theatres. He is filling, every photo, it's a full theatre. So there's something there. There's got to be that showmanship. Standing up in front of people is very daunting. So yeah, he's got that showmanship side there. I would just be fascinated to go and see him working and just hear the quality of the evidence and the method of working and things like that. I think it's all got a place, mate. It's all got a place. And if it's not for us, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just not right for us. Simple as that. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Got the big guns in. Hi from Casadega Spiritualist Association, down in Florida, everybody. We're having the same conversation here in Florida from the lovely Phil Dykes and, of course, his beautiful wife, Kerry McLeod. Do you know what? I find this so interesting that ever since, this is my theory. In 2020, it's almost like all our psychic networks opened up because suddenly we were having the same conversations. Suddenly there were the same schools of thought. Suddenly there were the same ideas going around and around this beautiful world. And I found that infinitely interesting because primarily every single one of us is a psychic being. What was it? Every medium is psychic, but not all psychics are mediums. So every single one of us is a psychic being. We are all capable of picking up, resonating to some degree or another with everybody else. And that seems to have continued. And I do wonder if some of the upset, some of the discord we see in this world is by people picking up on things, on thoughts, on feelings and emotions that we didn't used to so much, but lacking, it's very easy for us talking as spiritualists with spiritual people, and we start talking about mediumship and psychic faculties, and having that understanding. But for every one of us, there's probably 1,000 out there, if not more. No idea what you're talking about. Absolutely none. But we're in this world now where people are more receptive to things. We do feel things much more on an energetic level than we used to. We do feel remorse, sorrow, fear, anticipation. Sadly, not too much of the joy and the happiness. We need to start putting that out there. Yes, it's just interesting how, it just seems like this thought suddenly manifests and becomes the topic of the day, and then will evolve and turn and move on and transpire into something else. So, yeah, thank you for that, Phil. Colin, indeed, it is a balance. Not all churches are as proactive as Paul. Thank you, Colin. That's very kind of you. We do our best. I'm not the magician. I don't know everything. But do you know what? If you try something, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't work. As I said, go back, look at it, repackage it. Some of our practices, good question to ask is why? Why do we do it that way? I used to have a guy when I used to work in a train care depot. And one of the jobs we had to do was bring in these great big pallets full of a certain grade sand to put in the sanders on the train. And things happen, changes happen, work practices change, and blah, 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 blah. So where the sand was used moved from one of the maintenance shed to the area where they come in and they're detanked. So the toilet tanks are empty, water butts are filled up and everything. And the sanding would be done there. And do you know what? It took me about a year to break one person's habit of every time we had a sand delivery, they would take it to where it used to be done and not to where it is being done now. And it just showed, there's nothing wrong with the guy. He's not thick or anything like that. But it was just through years of doing, sand goes there. Years and years of doing that, it took quite a lot of effort to break that mold, to break that thinking. And as I say, we can apply that to our spiritualism, but it takes time. You often see people, they try an idea and they try it once. Nope, didn't work. Right, we're not doing that. Hang on. Number one, does it need rebranding? Number two, does it need a bit more time to settle in? Does it need more explanation? Yeah, just trying things. So thank you, Colin. Blah, 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 blah. Lorna Crowther, how do we learn without questions? We don't. It's as simple as that, my darling. I'll often talks and emphasize, no question is daft if you don't know the answer. We had a series of talks here many years ago from a very competent medium, and she was my final tutor before I went out on my own. Very fierce Yorkshire lady, loved her to bits, very fierce. And in the talk, there was a couple of young ladies come in, were listening to it, and they said, so what is a circle? And it didn't get handled very well, not through anything other than just not thinking, not being that receptive and open-minded. That's a really good question for somebody who's walked in off the street. It's a brilliant question. Because there's so many facets to that and things like that. So yeah, we've got to encourage questions, and we've also got to be mindful. We have a thing in training. Now, there's these different stages. So you have unconsciously incompetent. So you start doing something, you don't know you're doing it wrong, and you just carry on doing it, and you've got no idea it's wrong, and that's it. So that's unconsciously incompetent. Then there is consciously incompetent. So you're doing something and you're thinking, this doesn't feel right, but I don't know what's wrong. But it's not right, but I don't know what's wrong. Then we have the consciously competent. So we come in, we do stuff, we understand why we're doing it, yada yada. We go through a thinking process. Then when we get to what is one of the most trickiest parts in training, and that is unconsciously competent. This is where we can err into talking about subjects and things without assessing, is everybody involved on a similar level? Do they understand what the hell you're talking about if you talk about physical mediumship? You know, have they got a clue what you're talking about if you talk about trance mediumship and things like that, you know? So that is something we always need to be a little bit mindful. I call it going back to 1.0 at times. Really go back to the basics and stuff and assume that there'll be somebody there that will be great for them, because they will understand you, not just sat there going, I have no idea what you're talking about and I just want to get out of here as soon as possible. Lovely Marion. Keep up the pictures, my darling. They're beautiful. In our circle, I encourage everyone to do prayer, reading, philosophy, and mediumship. It all has a part to play. The more they connect with their own spirit, very important point, their own spirit, and spirit, the more they blossom. Spirit will teach them, and together their gifts will unfold. We have had some wonderful philosophy. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And I would expect nothing less from you, my darling. And you touch on a very important part there, prayer as well, along with the philosophy. Again, we have this fear factor comes in with some people. You know, who am I to deliver a prayer? Well, you're a sentient being and a creation of God. So, yeah, why wouldn't you be able to deliver a prayer? There are techniques to learn. There is that trust bond to build, that the words will flow. But yeah, everybody should be able. We all pray. You know, there's not one of us who can say one time in our life we haven't gone, oh, God, please. What's that? Please, God, don't. Yeah, we all pray. It's understanding that. But yeah, beautiful, Marion. Thank you. Darren Bell, I've just watched your interview with Steve Richards. Would you say it has had any influence on how you perceive things spiritually since? All the talks we did, when we first started off doing these talks in 2020, we came across a huge number of people. Some had great impacts, some lesser than that. Whenever you talk with anybody who's got a real passion about what they do, I think then when you can pick up on that passion, because when I used to ask guests to give us a talk and they say, what about? I just say, talk about your passion, because that really comes through. So there's been all sorts. If you go through the library of all the talks we've just had this whole range of amazing people who are either involved directly in the field of spiritualism or not. And they've all had something really interesting to share. So, yeah, I'm constantly changing my perceptions. I'm constantly open to thinking and critical analysis of what is being given to me. You know, we do see that a lot of myths are self-perpetuating, especially within spiritualism. People have been told something, never done the critical analysis of it, and just taken it in as verbatim, and continue that thing. You know, to me, why? Why do you say that then? Why is that? Why does that happen? Yeah. So yeah, Darren, everybody I've spoken to, I've taken something from them. Which should sound like a vampire, doesn't it? Colin, are you bored, sir? I know you've just had your holiday to celebrate your anniversary. I accept their point. They could be seen as evangelists of a sort, spreading the truth to people who would otherwise not get it. Yeah, negate. Do you know what the basic fundamentals of all religions and schools of thoughts? Do you know what, if their teachings, inspiration, philosophy, however they get their message over, if it's not procreating separatism, if it's not breeding discontent and separation, then yeah, there's something there. There's something to listen to there. But sadly, yeah, we also see it exactly the same as we do in spiritualism. Sometimes when we get some of our demonstrators who become slightly untouchable in their own thinking, and things go on, you just think, well, what does the spirit world think of that? And you can apply that also to, all these preachers, speakers, prophets, whatever. Just think, well, what does the spirit world make of this? It's what they're saying, of love. Is it of service? Is it of helpfulness? Is it of gratitude? Is it of, a little bit of self-respect and humility? Is that the message there? Or is it divisionless? Has it got that superiority? I had this in a conversation. Oh, well, of course, you wouldn't understand what we're saying because, you haven't raised to that level yet. I'm just like, really? Really? You want to go there with me? Really? Didn't end well. Do you know what I just said? And it came out of the time, and I think it was a beautiful little thought that came to me. As far as the spirit world's concerned, the race isn't over until the last person has crossed the line, and it's as simple as that. Anyway, moving on. So, thank you, everybody. We have next Saturday, which is planned at the moment, but things change, but is planned at the moment. We have Stephen Mager, and he will be live here in Poole with me. And he's going to share a talk with slides on where he's been speaking about the principles, 7 principles, but actually tracing them through historic documents pre the Emma Harding Britain interpretation of them, and tracing them right back to Hermetic principles. Sounds a bit dry, but seriously, it's not. It's really interesting. It is really interesting. So that will be next Saturday night, same time, same place. In the meantime, if you would like, you can watch our divine service tomorrow. We've got Angie Freeland. We haven't had Angie for a while. And yeah, it'd be nice to catch up with Angie again. So that's 11 a.m. BST. And as I say, then the next time will be next Saturday, 7 p.m. BST, and that's with Stephen Mager. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Anne. Yeah, just thoughts there. Take away, mull over, take them in, fine. Discard them, fine. Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Anyway, thank you all for being here. Absolute joy. Cat's going mad there now. I think she's got a heat rash, so I'll go and shower or something. But in the meantime, have a wonderful, wonderful night, and have a peaceful night. And just, look for the good things in life. Look for the things that make your heart sing. Yeah, and just focus on those. Have a great time, everybody. Night night.